we're able to see a lot more data so that our franchisees can be much quicker when it comes to making those changes in their nightly rates and revenue management, but then also smarter and way more strategic. So that is one way that you look for ways to increase your revenue and increase your profitability with your business as you go on.
Yeah.
And initially it was, scale, grow a big business. Well, then, revenue management got a lot better, and you could focus on revenue management to really increase your revenue, to yourself, to your franchisee, as well to our property owners. So a huge benefit that we provide there, but that has probably been one of the biggest changes that we've seen since back in the day, 2008.
Yeah, that's fascinating and really interesting for someone kind of considering different opportunities, just looking at the track record and the history of the franchise and the developments and the systems and how they've improved, and being able to validate that with the franchise owner and how powerful those systems were. So I think that's a really good point. And I know our hour is starting to wrap up, and I really still have a bunch of other questions as you kind of keep speaking. A lot of new things are coming up, but one thing that I definitely wanted to highlight that you mentioned as you talked about iTrip, and I think a lot of people would kind of be curious, you mentioned the Airbnb, the Vrbo relationship. So can you talk us through that relationship? Because I'm sure a lot of people, they're wondering, there's a lot of short-term property managers, why iTrip vacation, or why iTrip, and how does that relationship work? Am I competing with all these other, big guys out there? Or what does that relationship look like? And how does someone necessarily find iTrip online, or what does that look like?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so that's a big question. So I'll do my best to break it down. So high level, the way that it works is that, again, iTrip is not in competition with these other booking sites. So the Airbnb, Vrbo, Booking.com, Expedia, TripAdvisor, all these big names, Google, they're
Yeah.
all partners of ours. So iTrip, what they've done at the corporate level has been able to go out, establish strategic partnerships with all of these different companies, and then create a platform that communicates with all these different companies as well, and sends information back and forth to these different companies, so that franchisees, number one, they don't have to manage those different relationships. They don't have to manage the communication between those different platforms as well. The franchisees, they're working in one location, which is the iTrip proprietary software. And then that
Yeah.
software is able to update all of those different sites. So there's no chance for a double booking with things like that. And iTrip has done a really good job creating those strategic partnerships. We actually have the largest property advertising platform in the industry as well. So our franchisees, a huge competitive edge that they have is when they enter into a market, even with 0 properties under management, they're brand new, they can confidently approach a property owner and say that we can advertise your property on more listing sites to be able to get you more bookings than any of our competitors. So huge competitive edge. But then we also do a lot of work when it comes to direct bookings. Like you mentioned, I've never seen iTrip online to book a short-term rental property. And that's probably for good reason, because if you did find us in the mix of, the likes of Airbnb, Vrbo, Expedia, these massive publicly traded companies, we're
Yeah.
probably spending our marketing dollars wrong if we're trying to compete on the same platforms as they are. So we try to be much more strategic when it comes to our marketing, rather than trying to, compete with those companies and the advertising dollars that they're throwing out. So like we mentioned, we're doing a lot of social media, search engine marketing, remarketing as well to our guests. And we're able to achieve about a 30% direct book rate to the iTrip platform as a result of the additional marketing that we're doing for our franchisees. So again, trying to be very, very specific, very particular on how we actually do that marketing is one way, and implementing AI, back to the AI conversation, implementing AI so that we can have better conversion rates and have a lower cost per conversion when it comes to those direct bookings too. That's our strategy.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And kind of that's what I was thinking with Airbnb, Vrbo, I would say if you're not like first 3 on those Google results, you're really in the graveyard, let alone if you're on the second page, you're really in the graveyard at that point. So trying to figure out, where you get your customers, where you get your clients. And that's kind of 2 more questions as we kind of end this up. As someone, they become a franchise owner, what is this? How long is the ramp up process? Because I understand, it's a Wi-Fi business, it's an internet business. You're making Wi-Fi money, no employees, no overhead. So what does it look like to get started? And then obviously at that point, they're like, where do I make my money? Where do I find my customers? Can you talk about how you help with real estate selection? And are you looking at the market, and how do they figure out where to get those customers?
Yeah, exactly. So, like you mentioned, we're a home-based business opportunity. We look for local owner operators. So we really become pillars of our community, businesses of our community, and we understand the local market very well, being a local franchisee, which is really, really unique. So
Mhm.
the way that the franchisees, they're getting started, and ramp up time can really vary. So it's a tough question to answer, because it depends on how much effort you want to put into the business, how quickly you really want to grow, so on and so forth. So, like, my family, for example, we grew very quickly, and a lot of effort into that first year to really grow as quickly as possible. Other folks, they may want to take things a little bit slower, but we always set a stretch goal for our new franchisees to hit 30 properties in their first year. But that's how you're growing, that's how you're scaling, and that's how you're getting started with the business, is that growing that real estate portfolio of properties that you manage. So again, there's 20 plus different strategies that we implement. I could take another hour just talking about those different strategies that we have, but we certainly help franchisees identify great areas to get started, where these are kind of hotspots. These are hubs of short-term rental properties. This is where we should focus. These are the strategies and ways that we reach out to the property owners. Again, here is the unique benefit that we're providing. We're able to offer a very unique, very great service to those property owners. And then, hey, let's get started as a new franchisee. Let's start reaching out to these property owners. Let's start being a resource to the community, so that we can start to get some of these property referrals in as well. So again, it can go pretty deep there, but I'll just leave it there for now.
No, that's super helpful. And I think we'll have to do a second podcast, and we'll really dive into that and answer my other 100 questions as we
For
dive
sure.
into this. But this was really helpful. I think the viewers definitely learned a lot. I think one final question for people, as I think your perspective as someone that was in the business for 15 years, part of iTrip, really watched kind of the family dynamic change, and really having that corporate America perspective is so helpful for a lot of people out there. So as you kind of evaluate your family's journey over the years, what were kind of some of the lessons learned over the time there?